Details from last night's town council meeting on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Friday, January 23rd, 2015. I'm Sarah Mantle. 100 homeless individuals in Barnstable receive a warm coat that converts into a sleeping bag. Town Councilor Paul Hebert talked about the program during last night's Town Council meeting.
And I just brought one. I just want to quickly show it. It's going to be coming out in the paper, The Patriot, most probably on Friday. And I just want everyone to be aware of what this coat looks like. The danger of this coat is if a homeless person who's being turned away from the non-existent beds, all of the shelters, all the way to Boston are full and overflowing. People are sleeping on the floors as best we accommodate people, but there are still people sleeping outside. So it's just an effort to care for as many individuals as we possibly can. We sent 5 just this week over to Martha's Vineyard, who has a substantial homeless population. So I do have just this quick sample for you. When it's folded up, this is what it looks like, so it can be thrown over a shoulder and it can be carried along like this. When it's fully open, these coats were designed in Detroit by a woman who was trained in clothing design. She hires homeless women to make these coats, which took them off the streets and gave them immediate growth in their personal life and their financial well-being. So in any event, these coats are very water resistant, protect the individual, and then it opens up, and then there's an inside that, when that opens up, creates an entire sleeping bag. The legs go into this packet down the bottom, and the person can do a better job of surviving outside. Maybe the best part of this is to convince all of us that we have a long way to go in caring for our homeless individuals.
What are some of the things we're looking at?
Hebert hopes the community will continue to work to combat homelessness. Barnstable Public Schools' FY16 budget was the focus of a joint workshop with the school committee and town council last night. Finance Director Mark Milne talked about some of the aspects of that budget.
What are some of the things we're looking at? Well, we have some property debt exclusions expiring. For fiscal year 16, next year, we're going to be adding $1.4 million of additional taxing onto the tax levy for the high school and the Barnstable Intermediate School renovation projects. We have 4 more years of bond payments on those 2 projects going from FY16 to FY19, and then they come off. We won't have to add that additional tax levy onto the tax bills every year because they expire. So we're looking at that. That's coming off the books. We also are looking at, this thing stopped working. There we go. General fund surplus. I threw this in here to illustrate that over the past 10 years, you can see how much we've used for our operating budgets, to balance our operating budgets, as well as to contribute to the capital program, as well as what we've generated. And I think this illustrates that even though we're using the fact that we had a $11.3 million beginning balance back on July 1, 2005, and today we have a $13 million, $370,000 balance, shows that we have a structurally balanced budget. We use surplus every year to balance our operating budget and also some of our capital program. However, we're generating surplus every year to offset that. So in essence, we have a structurally balanced budget, which is good. We don't want to be using more than what we're generating every year. And so far, we have placeholders in our FY16 budget development to use $2.1 million for our operations, but we also anticipate on generating the same amount right now to offset that, so there'll be no impact on our general fund savings. We are in discussion as far as to how much to use for the capital program so far. We haven't determined that number yet.
And while we only gave you a snippet of the presentation, you can watch the entire budget presentation on the town's website by clicking on Video on Demand. Well, no decision on a land swap. Town councilors opted to continue the land swap items concerning the shooting range until the end of February. Town manager Tom Lynch says postponing a vote would allow counselors to have all the information they need to make a decision.
What are some of the things we're looking at? Well,
The consultant has not completed the environmental assessment cost estimates that to operate a safe range and/or conduct, a cleanup of the lead at the shooting range. And Dan Santos, our DPW director, Mark Ells, assistant town manager, we have had conversations, as you might imagine, extensive with Richard Petticord, who is conducting the study for us, and we believe that the following timetable could be met. We should be able to have a draft of the report by the end of next week. We'd like to then be able to circulate that draft to councilors so that you will have a chance to, and of course it would become public record at that point also, and have a chance to have input into that. Then we would get a final draft during the month of, after we've gotten your responses. We'll have to set some sort of timeline on that. I don't have a date on that exactly yet, but then we would have them prepare a final draft for us and then have a presentation before the council at the meeting at February 26th. We want you to have as much information as you can when you're making these decisions. It may not influence your vote one way or the other, but it's something that you would want to have, I think, rather than be surprised later by saying, I didn't know these facts when I made a particular choice. So it's an effort of trying to inform you of everything of all the information that we expect to have on this. I can say from some of the reports I've heard already is that they may be recommending additional studies if on certain items, but that's to be expected. This is a first scope on this, but I think that we'll all be in a better position to have a discussion and answer questions and have questions answered on this if you continue the items at this time to the 26th.
Again, the land swap will be on the Town Council agenda February 26th. A study of the Stewart's Creek Culvert project will move forward. Town Council approved spending $40,000 to hire consulting engineers to conduct an evaluation of the work. DPW Director Dan Santos says the Army Corps of Engineers completed the project last spring, and residents have raised concerns about an unpleasant tidal odor.
what are some of the things we're looking at? Well,
And the other part of that project was to do some dredging in the estuary as well. The Army Corps of Engineers basically, as they've described it, decided that because of differing site conditions and they had at first anticipated, they weren't able to do the dredging project, and that portion of the project was dropped. And so what was effectively the project became replacing the culvert, which absolutely has provided more water into the system. It's a much larger opening, and so what is being seen there is larger high tides, lower low tides. But since the project was installed in 2013, the completion of the culvert, there's been much concern from residents in the area who've brought this to the attention of some of you, to myself, to the town manager, that they didn't believe the system as installed was working properly, that in fact they weren't getting an improved condition in Stewart's Creek, that it was worse, and there was aesthetic issues with odors and sight, and the water levels weren't what they anticipated they would be, or at least they were told they would be. So what we've decided to do is to engage the services of a coastal engineering consultant to go back and look at this system, to look at what the assumptions, what the Corps of Engineers were proposing, whether or not that was reasonable, whether or not it was installed as proposed, what we should have expected, and are we seeing what we should have expected and anticipated, and generally just do an overall review of the project to see if in fact it is not working, as some of the residents have said, or if it is working as designed and it's just providing results that were not as expected.
And that study is expected to begin soon. Well, be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 7 a.m. On Monday's show, we will talk e-permitting with Assistant Town Manager Mark Ells. We'll hear from Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Mary Schkowski. Plus, we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mantle.